You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Kirk, Fox, Jones, Kirk! David Kirk! From David Kirk, away to Fox and then Kirk in support. Jones had a hand in it too, then the little rolling pass inside, and the All Black captain makes his day.
Well, you might not have been able to hear Keith Quinn above the cheering at Eden Park there 36 years ago. All Blacks captain David Kirk scoring that try in the 1987 Rugby World Cup final against France. About an hour later, he became the first man to lift the William Webb Ellis trophy, something only 7 other men have done in the time since. David Kirk's gone on to be hugely influential in the business world, but also retains significant involvement in rugby. And David Kirk is with us on Weekend Sport. Great to get the chance to chat to you, David. Thanks for taking the time. 36 years on, man, 36 years. What stands out most about the 1987 Rugby World Cup for you?
Oh, great question. I mean, it's hard to remember. I mean, I obviously the final. Obviously, firstly, I suppose that first game, on a windy Thursday afternoon in Auckland, John Kirwan's fabulous try and that length of the field try, and then travelling around New Zealand. You know, it was very unusual to be on a tour in your own country, but it was a great tournament. And then, of course, the final, and I suppose I remember scoring my try, and then I think the lifting of the cup, the receiving of the cup, and turning around, looking at that sea of faces on Eden Park. Everyone had run on the field. Not allowed to do that these days, but that vision and then all the cheering and holding the cup up, it's still pretty vivid.
When did you find out officially that you would be captain of that side?
It was before the first match. So the first match was on a Thursday. It was probably the Wednesday captain's final run we had when Andy had been injured. You know, we'd been together for a couple of weeks and he'd been injured really from the very first training session, so he hadn't taken part in anything, and so it was sort of pretty obvious, but he clearly wasn't fit on that the day before that first match, and Brian Lahore confirmed that I would captain the side.
You had obviously done that previously, but this was a Rugby World Cup, and finding out quite late in the piece that you'd be leading the side out, was that in any way daunting for you at that time?
Not really, actually. I mean, I was sort of in a way the vice captain. I had captained the side the year before, as you said, and was sort of leading back in that sense, and I was captaining Auckland at the time, so I'd had plenty of experience, and I guess there's a bit of an expectation that I would captain the side given Andy had his hamstring problem for quite some time.
That side is still so famous, the side of 1987, not just for what it achieved at the Rugby World Cup, but the players who were involved in it. From your point of view as a team of men to lead, what made that group of All Blacks so special?
Well, there were just some unique talents in the first place. Just the Sean Fitzpatricks and the Grant Foxes and the John Kirwans and the John Gallaghers, and the Michael Joneses and the Wayne Shelfords. I mean, you really... I've chosen about half the team there, but everyone in that team was a really high quality international player. So that's point one. Secondly, that we just gelled together. There were a lot of players from Auckland and Canterbury, so we'd played together quite a lot. But the key combinations, the front row was from Auckland, the back row was Auckland plus Wayne Shelford. Grant Fox and I played a lot of rugby together. It was just, the team was just like, really surprisingly, incredibly, played so well together, was so fluent together. And that started from the very first game, and we never looked back. And obviously we changed a few players around from time to time, bringing in players like Zinzan Brook, for instance, who was in the reserve and went on to be again an exceptional player. And everyone slotted in perfectly. So it was the cohesiveness of the team on and off the field, I think, as well as just some amazing quality, and we played a style of rugby that was pretty new. Some of the teams have played it from time to time, say France and Australia. A game that was really focused on continuity. The ball stayed alive. There was always someone backing up, always another pass to be made, and that's why we scored so many points. I mean, we beat teams by 70 and in semi-final against Wales. We won 49-9, and even in the final, 29-9. So it was a pretty extraordinary team.
When the idea of a Rugby World Cup was first mooted, as a player and as a playing group, can you remember how you felt about the prospect of a Rugby World Cup?
Great. Everyone thought it was great. And the reason was that we most of the time the All Blacks would consider themselves to be the best in the world, and you'd go on tours and you'd play against Australia or Argentina, or go to the UK and play over there, and you'd mostly win, so you'd have a fair claim. But there'd never been an opportunity to actually demonstrate it, to be there to be in a situation where everyone played everyone, or not everyone played everyone, but you worked your way through the draw and you got to the two finalists, and then someone won the big World Cup final, and then you could say we are world champions. That was what we all wanted to do. That was the main thing for us. It was to demonstrate that we were the best in the world.
I want to talk about the current tournament, or the upcoming tournament, with you shortly, but you played just one further test match after the Rugby World Cup final against Australia, same year, about a month later, I think. I know you injured a hamstring in that game, but then that was it for you, David, as an All Black, at the age of, 26? Why did you retire so soon?
Well, actually, it was a knee, not a hamstring, and I'd done it in club rugby after the World Cup final, a couple of weeks after. Those days, we just went straight back to club rugby. And so I was really keen to play that final game in Sydney against Australia, because, of course, we'd lost the Bledisloe Cup the year before, and I wanted to get it back. I wanted to captain the side, captain to lose the previous year, so I wanted to captain the side to win and leave, my final match with New Zealand Rugby, having got the Bledisloe Cup back in where it should be, where it should belong. So that was a big one for me too, after the World Cup final, and for the whole team. And we duly did that. We did that pretty comfortably, and the Bledisloe Cup was back. The reason I left, and I didn't sort of want to leave in a way, but I had a Rhodes Scholarship to go to Oxford University to study, and I'd already deferred it for 2 years, and I couldn't defer it for another year. So it was amateur rugby in those days, and I made a choice to put my educational and then working career ahead of rugby, and in a way I'd achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. 87 was a golden year. Auckland University won the championship. Auckland kept the Ranfurly Shield and won the national championship. We won the World Cup. We got the Bledisloe Cup back. I didn't play in a single losing game in that whole year, so it was actually a good time to say goodbye.
Well, talk about going out on top. Yeah, no, fantastic stuff. You know what it's like to captain a winning Rugby World Cup side from halfback on home soil. If we fast forward to now, France's Antoine Dupont has the same opportunity. Do you think he'll take it?
I think he's got a very good chance of taking it. I think France are definitely one of the best teams in the tournament. And I also think, really importantly for France, they won't beat themselves, meaning they won't succumb to the pressure and give away penalties or have players yellow card. They will play disciplined, organised rugby, right to the end, which I think is great. They're going to be hard to beat. I think they're also a very balanced team. Good set pieces, big forwards, back rows good, and the whole back line is excellent. So I think Antoine's got a good chance of being the next. There's two of us now with Nick Farr-Jones being the next. A halfback, or demi-de-mêlée, as they say in France, to lift the World Cup.
What about the current All Blacks side, David? How do you assess where they're at? What do you predict for them over the next 6 or 7 weeks?
Well, I think we've got a talented, capable team. I think the big thing for us is that we've got to learn, or at least we've got to step up our ability to play with intensity and accuracy in the forwards for longer. We've got to be able to, when we do play with intensity and accuracy in the forwards, meaning our set pieces are great, we win all our lineouts, we snaffle a couple of theirs, we do well in the scrums, or if not be slightly on top of the scrum. That's the physical intensity, and then at the breakdown we need to be absolutely, piling in for 60 minutes of the game. We need to be going at that intensity and accuracy in the forwards. That means we'll get the ball, and we'll get the ball going forward, and we've definitely got the halfback pairing and the midfield backs and the finishers to win against anyone if we can get the ball going forward consistently and if our set pieces are working consistently well. So it's, in a way, it's very simple for us. We have to play, the forwards have to play with an intensity and accuracy, physical intensity and accuracy that gives the backs the opportunity to play in the right part of the field, so kick effectively, but also then score points. So it's simple for us. If we can't physically match it with South Africa and France and Ireland, then we're not going to win.
What is your gut telling you? I mean, clearly we can on our day. We've got big physical men playing in these big games. But what's your gut telling you? Will New Zealand go deep into this tournament?
It's really difficult because we've seen them play unbeatable rugby, say in that first half against South Africa in the Rugby Championship. But then we've also seen them be run over the top of, as we just saw in the last game against South Africa. So it's really hard to have a prediction, but I think they can do it. It's mental as much as physical. As you said, we've got some big players and we've got some experienced players. It's mental. And so it's about a group of leaders in the team. It's not just all on Sam Cane. It's about a much wider range of group of leaders who just decide they can do it. And they're going to do it. And they're going to do it in the big games. And the big games are the quarterfinal, the semi-final and the final. We're going to have a really big quarterfinal against South Africa or Ireland. We have to win that game, of course. So they've got to really understand how they peak, and they've got to physically front up.
Gee, it's just such an intriguing couple of months ahead. Just before you go, David, you're going to be in France in various capacities, one of which is an ambassador for the Rugby Heritage Cup. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Daniel Dubroca, who was the captain of the French team in that 1987 World Final, who I've kept in touch with and saw quite recently when the winning World Cup captains were in Paris for an event. He's the other ambassador or senior ambassador, because there are lots of other players involved, but we're the two giving away the cup when it comes down to it. The Rugby Heritage Cup is a invention of a wonderful school about 200 kilometres south of Paris, Pont-l'Avoy, in a little place called Pont-l'Avoy, which has an abbey since the 11th century. It's now turned into a school. Some of the original buildings are still there. And they decided to put on a global under-15 boys and girls seven-a-side tournament as part of the World Cup, as part of the heritage of the World Cup, involving young boys and girls. And so they asked me and Danielle and Philippe Sellard, I know, is involved, and others are involved as well, other players are involved, to support it and help it. So we've been doing that. And with the Rugby Players Association and the Condors in New Zealand, who run all our sevens, or our secondary school sevens, and we've got we tripped around New Zealand and asked principals at schools to nominate boys and girls to travel over in our team, and that's been done. It's not for the best team. It's not just about who wins the tournament. It's about the experience and the opportunity for young people who would never get the chance otherwise to travel to France. And those teams have left. Richie McCaw handed out the jerseys to them. And they'll be there now. So the tournament goes over 2 days. As I said, it's not so much about who the winner is, but the cup will be given out. It's about the experience for the young people, and not only is it a seven-a-side tournament, but there's an opportunity to cook. French chefs are going to be there, and they'll cook dishes that are from their own country. And there's also, they make a little video too of their time over there, and then they share that with other teams as well. And the teams from all over the world, I think there might be 20 or 25 teams, and from Africa, from South America, from all across Europe, from our part of the world. So it'll be a wonderful experience for the girls and boys.
Absolutely terrific. Pontlavoy2023.com is the website to find out more about the Rugby Heritage Cup. Just before you go, David, can I circle you back to 1987? How often do you circle back? In a quiet moment, or quiet moments, plural? How often do you think about that moment of thrusting the William Webb Ellis trophy into the sky at Eden Park in 1987?
Well, I guess in World Cup years, definitely, and also when people remind me of it. And I think there's the sort of emotional side of it, and the remembering how thrilled and happy and relieved we all were. But then when I think about it as a sort of an event in my life, it sort of changed my life in a lot of ways. So it is a big deal for me personally, and in a way you sort of think about every day. And because what I am today and what I'm doing today is connected to that moment through all the other happenings that have flowed from it. So it was a great moment in my life.
Yeah, well, we haven't even got anywhere close to the other achievements you've done for yourself and for so many other people beyond your rugby playing career. But it's just so great to reminisce with you, David. Thanks so much for taking the time. Travel safe to France for the Heritage Cup, and I guess we can all just say go the All Blacks, and let's hope they can get the job done in Paris in about 7 weeks.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going on. The Cup's just before the start of the first game, so I'm staying for the first match and then coming back. So I'll be there in the stadium shouting them on, trying to have my voice heard over the 70,000 French people.
Good on you, David. Thanks indeed for joining us. David Kirk there, iconic All Blacks captain, the first man to hold the William Webb Ellis trophy as captain of a Rugby World Cup winning side back in 1987.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.